Hi, good morning, and welcome back to another edition of Discover History. I'm Brad Bertelli, curator at the Keys History and Discovery Center, located here at the beautiful Islander Resort in Islamorada. And today we're going to talk a little bit about African dust, since it's in the air right now. I was driving home from Key West over the weekend and wondering why my eyes were blurry and why my windshield had gotten so dirty after it had just rained. And then it occurred to me that there is a large amount of dust covering, that's blowing over from Africa and over the state of Florida. And historically, this has been going on for tens of thousands of years, and it's made some remarkable influences here in the Florida Keys that I'm going to talk about in 1 second. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. Erin is manning our high-tech camera back there, and she'll let me know. Otherwise, I will get back to you later on this afternoon and answer any questions that may arise. Over the course of tens of thousands of years, at certain times of the year, there's dust storms in Africa on the Saharan desert, and these dust storms whip up the dust into the atmosphere, and the dust moves over in these giant clouds across the Atlantic Ocean and over and to the U.S. and covers, Florida and some of these states. And there's evidence of this, that it's occurred, and it really does, kind of rear its head in some of the things we've talked about repeatedly during whenever we talk about Florida Keys history. And so over the course of all this time, this dust has come over and settled, and as it settles, it has created, piles, or that's not the right word, but it's filled in solution holes and created these what the pioneers used to call red holes. And these red holes were ideal places for farming. The pioneers, as we've talked about countless times, how there's very little topsoil here in the Florida Keys because we're based on an ancient coral reef, and there's this limestone substrate with this very thin layer of topsoil. But sometimes there are these little gullies and pocks in crevices in the limestone, and these have been filled up over tens of thousands of years with this African dust to create these red holes. And what the pioneers liked about the red holes is they didn't require a lot of digging in. You could actually plant seeds without having to, as Aaron's ancestors did, and as people who did, as they're planting crops, walking around with a large branch or stick, kind of poking the ground, looking to find some depression where you could actually plant a seed where it could grow. But in these red holes, there was an ample amount of topsoil, and you could just plant your seeds, and there wasn't filled with rock, so it was a very easy place to plant. And also, they didn't require much weeding for whatever reason. And one of the comments and in one of the stories I've read about the pioneers, they liked these red holes because they only required maybe one weeding per season. So that's one aspect of the Saharan dust that's settled, but also it shows up in some of the Keystone that has been manufactured and quarried out of the limestone in Key Largo and in Winley Key, where we have visited. And you go to places like the Key West Courthouse, the Miami-Dade Courthouse, and the Florida Keys Memorial, better known as the Hurricane Monument, and you'll see in this Keystone, which is really just the slabs of limestone that have been cut away. They were sent up to Miami to the Keystone Art Company, and where the limestone was kind of polished to a sheen and then used as a decorative rock. But sometimes in this rock there are red places or red, red stains, they almost look like. And if you go to the Hurricane Monument in Islamorada, you'll see some of these red stains in the limestone in the Keystone, and that is again from this African dust that has come over the Atlantic Ocean and settled onto the islands over the course of tons and tons of time. And it's really interesting that for a long time when I was first getting into the history, there was lots of debate about where, how come the soil was red, where these red soils, where these red holes, where they came from. I was talking to a park ranger, or someone working in the park, not really a ranger, but someone working in a park who said it was from the red mangroves, and there was a lot of theories that were thrown around. But then the more you dig into a subject, which is my job is to dig into this, to the history and find out kind of what's behind the scenes. It turns out that it's actually this African dust that has settled down over all this time. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, because there is, over the weekend there was news reports about, about staying inside and wearing a mask, not for other reasons, but just to keep the dust out of your throat and your nose. And also, this dust settles and it covers cars and it covers plants, and we need that rain to follow up to kind of dust everything off and wash things away. But it was funny because I was driving home with my wife. We were down in Key West, and I had just gone through a rainstorm, and the windshield wipers were going, and then 5 minutes later, after we're out of the rain, I'm staring out the window, and are my glasses going bad? Are my eyes just tired? Why is everything kind of hazy? And then the windshield had gotten a little sticky because as we were driving through, we were hitting this dust. This dust. It's hard to. It's almost imperceptible when you're looking at it, but there is a kind of a haze over the horizon. Also makes for fabulous sunsets this time of year as well, which is pollution does a lot of great things for sunsets, but this red haze also makes. It's true, because without the pollution, you don't get some of those pretty colors, but with this dusty haze, it kind of gives a nice, kind of cool red glare to the sunset. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. We have, how long has it been? I'm going to add, there's a couple of things. Last week we were talking about some of the cool things we have on exhibit that are upstairs that aren't really readily available for exhibit, but things that are going to be put into exhibits in the future, or things that are in our secondary case up in the library. And some of the really cool things that we have, we talked about ancient manatee bones, and we talked about bottled water from hurricanes. But one of the really cool things that we got from the Jerry Wilkinson collection was these original train passes for William J. Crome, his wife, and his son. And Mr. Crome was, he was in 1905 hired to create or to establish the right-of-way, to survey the right-of-way down the Florida Keys, and he would eventually end up being the head engineer and even in the end the man responsible for creating the Overseas Railroad. But that's a really cool thing that we have in our collection is that will come out into an exhibit we have planned. There's also my old friend Jim Klepper, who passed several years ago, who was really into Indians and Indian artifacts and also woodworking, and he has created a lot of facsimile tools that have been used by the Aboriginal people, knives with shark's teeth, and clubs, and other tools that are kind of interesting to see. You see people, you talk about them and you see pictures of them, but to have his manufacturing them using essentially the same techniques they would have used 1,000 years ago, although I do believe he cheats with some glue now and again to adhere some of the sinews and things to attach the teeth and the barbs and other pieces of shell to create these tools. But those are just a couple more things I wanted to add in that we have in our private collection upstairs, not private, but not readily on display here at the Keys History and Discovery Center. But we're getting close to back to normal here at the museum. All our yellow tape is gone. The chairs are back out, so you can sit down and enjoy some of our touchscreen interactive kiosks. There's so much information to be gleaned when you visit our facility, and we hope you, on your next visit down to the Keys, or if you're local, you have the opportunity to stop in and see the wonderful things that we've done here since 2013, over the last 8 years. And we're super proud of the work we've done, and we hope to share it with all of you. So the next time you're in the area or driving down to Key West or just please stop by at turn in at the Islander entrance and come visit us at the Keys History Discovery Center and get a taste of some of the great history that we have on exhibit and some of the great stories that we're telling here at our museum. So you guys have a great week. We will see you next Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and thanks so much.